Alright, so it's time to cover some more build order videos, especially now that it's the event season, so everyone's doing some PvP. So I'm going to cover Spear Rush first here, and we're going on Babylon, which has got the most unique Spear Rush, because you really only need about 6 villagers on the food, whereas you're generally going to need 8 on the other civs. But you're also going to have to start gathering gold and wood a little bit more heavily and a little bit more early on compared to the other civs. So we get to 200 wood here. Straight down the back. So Babs is one of the civs, like Roman and Norse, that you actually have to gather an extra 50 wood in order to be able to fit the barracks, as well as having a storehouse or that sort of thing. Bab obviously get the starting ox cart though, so that gives you a bit of relief there. So we're going to go up to 6 villagers on the food, and then start gathering a little bit of wood. And try and start gathering a little bit of gold fairly early on here. So we picked Oasis. It's actually the map that you're probably going to be spear rushing on, no matter who you're facing. It's just a really short rush distance map, so it's always helpful. Try and find 2 or 3 hunts, maybe 2 or 3 gold mines if you can as well. And get straight to rushing. And just work on getting enough wood gatherers here to sustain house production first and foremost. And then we're also going to start a little bit of gold gathering. So we got to 3 on the wood. Make sure we find this hunt. Don't throw any spears away, bind them up in a control group or something. Right now we already are starting to bank a little bit of food. So assuming I was against a player, I'd be able to punish a hunt here, or we'd be clashing with the spears, and I might have to actually backpedal slightly if we're against someone like Celt, Persia. You really don't want to throw things away against those civs. Go one more on the gold now, just to really sustain that gold income and keep producing the spears on time, as well as also giving up the wood gatherer production. And in fact, we can fit in an ox cart here, but what I might do is, instead of cancelling that villager to get the ox cart out, I'll just put it on the wood, put the ox cart on the gold. We should be right to get this next house on time as well. Now, we are going to be able to fit the spears in on time too. So it might be a bit dicey here. So we'll just finish that house. That's pretty lucky. That's a bad spot though, because now it's going to slow everyone down to drop off, so I really probably should have just put it here or over here. So he's on Berry's eco, so he's fallen behind. If this was a regular player, I'd definitely be falling behind. So you could transition into a quick dock or quick town center, followed by a bit of army, 3 production buildings, and then going for the dock. Don't get too many spears, because you are also, even though your spears are cheaper in terms of food, you've actually had to sacrifice a bit of gather time of other resources in order to get gold here. So get just enough to fight off your opponent, and then look at aging up from there, because we've already got the food to do so. And we are struggling to get the wood to do so. So we'll probably cut spears here, and even look at starting our stone gathering. But yeah guys, that's just how to get through Bab Spear Rush without having any downtime on your spear production, without getting housed. You may also opt to grab 1 or 2 of these villages and put them on the wood over here, if you just need to try and race to age 2 now, or otherwise maybe keep those guys on the gold and keep pumping out the spears if you're playing against like Celts or Persia, and both of you are really looking to commit to age 1 and sort of force your opponent into taking age 2, but also potentially slip behind while doing so. Don't forget to start your age 2, get your ziggurat, and also set up to move to your next hunt. That'll work properly. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If you're ever going to get housed, just take loom and then throw the house up. That way you're going to have no downtime at your town center, while getting an upgrade that can potentially be very useful, stop you from losing villages. And yeah, Oasis and grasslands Typically maps, you're going to see nothing but spear rush openings on, just because they're going to be really, really strong at crippling opponents' economies. In fact, I can probably restart this gold gathering. Spear production up, just get some villagers here. Sort of throwing him away, but he hasn't made anything. Cruelty. Try and focus your fire though, get kills. And get that second town center pretty quick. Try and get handsaw here as well. And as soon as your second TC goes up, you're also going to want to really knuckle down on getting towards 3 production buildings. In fact, you might like to delay the dock in order to do so. AI really doesn't handle the early pressure well, does it? But yeah guys, and you can take hunting dogs at this point as well, which is a perfect timing because you're probably about to really jump up on your land food eco if you aren't going for the dock at this point, because obviously now you've got to afford 2 town centers worth of production, and then you're also going to be adding more military production as soon as you got the wood to do so here. You'll probably be streaming most of your villagers onto wood from this position. So that's all I've really been doing here, is just going for that wood. Maybe go for that ox cart there and try and fit in the garden as well, considering with Babylon it's just a universal train time reduction. Always quite a handy thing to have. And depending on how you want to play it, get either a stables or a range here. A lot of matchups you've got to be careful with opening the stables. Because the Lancers aren't terribly heavy, like their charge really makes them a high value unit late game, but early on they're more of a raiding cavalry. They really are probably the weakest of the 2-pop cavalry. But they're only slightly beefier than raiders, for instance. He's been building outside of TC range. Oh, he's got a tower! Never mind. I was going to say, building outside of TC range, that's easy push. But unfortunately, he's got a lot of towers, so I can probably switch to bearers from here. Now be a little bit careful getting gardens around your second town center or your forwardmost town center. But in that case, you know, just start building houses around it or something. Make it hard for melee to pick off. Force your opponent to have to use range to focus it. I'm about to play a really food intense army, so I'll even put these guys over here. Take pickers and hunting dogs and my net lures. Let's put these up. I can watch the waterline here. Yeah, the only thing that's really costing me gold here is lances, so but I am also trying to fit in a couple of gardens, so get them down. And now that little gold bank we had is gone. Enough wood that we can add more production, or now that we're at 3 production buildings. Armory's a nice addition at this point. I like to go for them at 3 these days. I used to always hold out for 4 or 5, but the problem is if you do it then, by the time you get into it, your opponent's actually taking champion techs. If you're not getting any early damage done, or you fall behind, so be a bit careful. Now my wood income's really picking up, so I'll be able to get to 5 production buildings or double armory. And in this situation, you can even probably grab some of these food villages, wood villages, put them on food, get ready to throw down another ox cart or storehouse for another civ. 1 or 2 villagers building houses. Try and have another maybe building houses offset to the first one as well, particularly once you get beyond 5 production buildings or 3 production buildings and 2 town centers, because you know you're constantly going up by 5 pop at a time. But no more is also something else you got to try and balance, and start your stone gathering. So maybe get 3 on the stone. So yeah, try and start your stone gathering before you actually have the armory finished. In an ideal world, you want to have about 70 to 90 stone as the armory finishes, so you're taking it basically as soon as it finishes or just about immediately after. And yeah, if you can, try and split up your villagers building the houses once you've got that little bit of space, that bit of leeway. Get your age up, and in fact, keep adding a couple more stone gatherers so you can get your armory upgrades and also save for your town center from here. In fact, I've got enough food and wood. I can probably really focus on gold and stone. So in a good spot to get the town center, get the age up, and actually start our armory as well. Maybe even add a second armory if you've got the resources to have that town center up immediately anyway, and even flesh out your production a bit more if you need to. Bearing in mind, adding ranges is always a rough choice, because as your wood expenditure on range units goes up, your ability to save to build buildings at any given moment really drops. Carnage is something that sort of really helped me cotton onto that and really play a food army centric game. It's often seen as the more Chad way to play, if I do say so myself. But yeah, we've managed to go from a spear opening to now having a semi-fast stage 3, and still also have quite a healthy amount of military, have relatively even resources this late into the game, which, you know, it's not late game, but even this far in, some people do struggle to balance that eco, what they've got in the bank. In fact, I've got the food to spend on that. I can transition away from such a food heavy army as well, start adding in some mounted archers, throw down another range, and maybe even add slingers if I need to, or, you know, mounted archers out of the stables. Champion for spears I could have taken earlier. I didn't need to this game, but it's really a nice upgrade, even when they're facing non-cavalry, because they often have, yeah, like damage and snare. They're always useful. So save for those upgrades and get them. Try not to overbank any resources, but you really want to try and stay under 1,000 of any resources at any point in the game, except for the tail end of Age 3 when you're trying to save for Age 4. But even then, once you start noticing you're going above 1,500 or 2,000 resources, start making sure you get your other resources up around that level. Stone maybe a little bit less, obviously, but yeah. If you need to, you can even really surge a particular resource, but be mindful just how long you're doing that for and why you're doing it. And once you've spent on the things that are really going to eat up that resource, then transition away from it. Start gathering more of the other resources again, because you are going to have to work towards Age 4, and it is hella expensive. And it used to be more expensive, briefly. So yeah, guys, that's a bit of a guide to spear rushing on Bab. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you around.